My name is Jane Nurse, and I am the acting resident Swiss Army knife for Renegade Rum Distillery. So if there are any questions, any needs, just please come to me. Today I'll be your master of ceremony, and I'm delighted to see such a full tent. And I'd like to take the opportunity to ask my colleague Devin Date. Do I see Devin? Yes. Devin Date to start us off with a prayer before we commence with the actual ceremony. Thank you. Devin, may I invite you to the podium?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Let us pray. Okay. Father God, praise you for this event, this historic event, and your purpose for it. Thank you for every seat that has filled in this house here today. For each mind and heart that feels the presence of this place, we thank you, God. We are thankful to you and all those who have worked so hard to put the Renegade Rum Distillery project together. Our shareholders, directors, the engineering teams, the landowners, government institutions, equipment suppliers, contractors, and of course, the Renegade and Kinko workers. Our prayer today is that your will be done through this event, O God. Take what we have prepared and multiply it, or multiply our efforts as only you can. Steer our intentions, O God, to align with your righteous will. Remind us of your faithful provision when our efforts fail us or we fall short. May all glory go up to you when we reach the finish line, O God, and climb over our benchmarks. Blanket us with your peace today, O Father. Keep us physically safe and guard our hearts and minds from pride and selfishness. Keep love and commitment to this project, community, and country at the forefront of our minds today, O Father, and the guiding light for all we set out to accomplish as we celebrate this event. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much, Devin, for this kind blessing. And now, just a few words before we start. If anybody needs a comfort break at any point in time, the closest restrooms are in the building behind me in the Distill House on the ground floor. I've had a few questions already, so I wouldn't want to embarrass anybody. And before we get started with the remarks, just a few notes on the program and the agenda for today. So we will start with welcome remarks by Lady McTaggart. It will be followed by remarks by our CEO of Renegade Rum, Mark Rainier. We will have the feature address by Minister Peter David. And then we will conclude the session with a ribbon cutting ceremony with Governor General Her Excellency Dame Cecile Laganat. And for those who are then also interested in going on a tour, we have obviously our colleagues ready. We will have refreshments, and I shouldn't forget obviously the vote of thanks by Graham as well. So now I would like to I would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the presence of our great host of guests here today. I'd like to thank for attending the Governor General, Her Excellency Cecile Laganade. I would like to thank Minister of Agriculture Peter David for making it here today as well. Also, it's a pleasure to have you with us, British Commissioner Randy Freeman, and then it's also great to have with us PS Jessamy, Miss Jessamy. Well, sorry, Marina Jessamy. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite to the podium Lady McTaggart to speak a few welcome remarks. Thank you.
Your Excellency, honoured guests and fellow Renegaders, a very warm welcome to you all on this special day when we officially celebrate the opening of the Renegade Rum Distillery. You will have noticed that I'm probably not Sir John, who, due to unforeseen circumstances, cannot be here today. I'm his wife, Helena. And this is what he would have wanted to say. It has been a long journey. Our CEO, Mark Renegade, has been wandering around the Caribbean for a decade, looking for the perfect climate and a welcoming community to locate his vision to make the world's finest premium rum from sugarcane. He chose Grenada, and thank heaven for all of us that he did. Mark and our partner John Adams first invested in Renegade Rum in 2014. Together with our fellow shareholders, we have invested over 100 million EC dollars in this project and the state-of-the-art distillery which you see before you here today. In choosing Grenada, Mark was looking for authenticity, a sense of place, somewhere we could produce rum which captured the spirit of the country as well as a terroir of the soil and soul of Grenada. I hope all of you will try this special rum later and agree that our master distiller, Devon Date, and his team have succeeded in that quest. Devon is a fortunate fellow too, as he is the odd one out in what is otherwise the world's first all-female distilling team. And believe me, these ladies know how to make a good rum. Our rum is made from certifiably sustainable raw ingredients with no additives, flavorings, colorings, or artificial sweetening. All the different terroirs from our individual cane fields are mapped, traced, and tracked. The most essential ingredient of Renegade rum is that it is made from pure sugar cane juice and not from molasses, as virtually all the other rums distilled in the world are today. But growing sugarcane requires land and the skills to grow it and harvest it. In 2016, there were only 8 acres of cane under cultivation on the island. Today, our subsidiary, CaneCo, is harvesting over 200 acres, all on land cleared and planted by Renegade, with a target of increasing that to 330 acres by the end of this year. Renegade is promoting sustainable, regenerative agricultural practices and moving towards organic cane management. An equally important part of our plans for Renegade was that we built a distillery which would be fit for purpose for the foreseeable future. So we have built here at conference a flood, hurricane, and earthquake-proofed plant. I hope these are not famous last words. We insisted that our distillery incorporated the highest standards of environmental sustainability. On your tour today, you will see our biomass boiler, where all the waste bagasse from the production process is used as fuel to fire our boilers, producing the steam we need for the distillation process. At the same time, our organic Rankine cycle utilizes any excess steam to produce electricity for our own use. Our wastewater is disposed of 100% naturally. We are an export brand first and foremost. In the last quarter of 2021, we produced 18,000 bottles of pre-cask Renegade for export to Europe as a trial run. It is gratifying that it has been extremely well received and sold out throughout the markets in which it was introduced. By 2025, we expect to be exporting over 25 million EC dollars of rum around the world, promoting Grenada's reputation for quality. Good for the country, good for the company, and good for the 124 directly employed new jobs this new enterprise has created from scratch. Our people are the backbone of Renegade Rum, and we practice equal gender pay. The journey since 2014 has not always been a smooth one. The COVID pandemic has been a very costly intervention for all of us. There have been the inevitable trials and tribulations as Mark and our team try to introduce new ideas and fresh ways of thinking. But there are many people to thank without whom none of this would have been possible, and I would like to just mention a few. To our farmers who have helped provide the cane, which is so essential to our business, we thank you. To my shareholders who have stood by us through thick and thin. To Anselme Latouche and his team at Creative Construction who built this wonderful distillery. To John Adams and Chris Higgins who have managed to keep our finances on an even keel. To all of our wonderful, loyal and hard-working staff here at Renegade and King Cane Co, who have always been willing to go the extra mile. To our Managing Director, Graham Williams, whose wisdom, experience and guidance has been essential in enabling us to arrive where we are today. And last but certainly not least, Mark Renier, because without his original vision, drive and determination, there would be no Renegade Rum. Finally, may I personally thank the Prime Minister for the support and assistance which he and his government have given us from the beginning. It has been a great comfort to me and all of us at Renegade to know we had his personal interest and support throughout our endeavours. And I know that my husband would have liked to add that we would very much appreciate a new road at the entrance of the distillery. Just saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lady McTaggart. It is really, truly a pleasure to have you and the shareholders come all the way to Grenada today. And now following, I would like to introduce Mark Renier, CEO of Renegade Rum. And as was already mentioned, without your passion, your drive and vision, we wouldn't be where we're here today. So it's with great pleasure I invite you to the podium.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, and thank you, Helena. It's very sad, in fact, today that unfortunately Sir John can't be with us, and neither the Prime Minister. But then we were all here, and we can. I think Sir John's speech, very well delivered by Helena, was very much to the point, and I think covered pretty much everything as if he'd been here. You could hear his voice coming through that. This project started with a very simple question. Which occurred to me was, how can you make a rum as profound as a single malt whiskey? That's the question that started. And the process led me to think, after several years of exploration, that we would have to build our own distillery and start completely from scratch. We would have to look at it from the outside and look in to the rum industry. We would have to challenge the conventions of how rum is made and has been made for the last 200 years. We would have to challenge the very beliefs that sustain that industry. In fact, we would have to go renegade. And that's what we've done. So we built this state-of-the-art distillery. We started with a blank sheet of paper. We started without copying anybody else. We started from that end of the distillery, and we worked back to where the cane comes in. So when our waste products at this end, and we worked back to where the cane came in at the other end. It was completely new thinking. We wanted to design a distillery that could extract the flavors of Grenada field by field, terroir by terroir, farm by farm. And that needed quite a complicated rethinking of how distilleries work and the balance that operates them. Because we're not actually making one rum, as you'll see in there. We're making 150 rums, little rums, each one derived from the fields around you that you see. Looking behind you there, you can see a yellowish bank of cane next to a lovely vibrant green field of cane. Two very different terroirs. One is full of iron ore and the other one is alluvial. This is what we're distilling. These give different flavors because each terroir, each cane grows slightly differently. The soil that nurtures the roots, to the microclimate around it, to the topography of the land. You'll have passed, many of you, Petit Bacalet, New Bacalet on the way up, recently harvested. An amphitheater, a sun trap that faces directly due south. It has very thin soil. It's all been washed away. The land is quite rocky. The cane suffers. It suffers from drought. It looks the most unpropitious place to grow cane. And yet it produces some of the most extraordinary flavors that we distill. So terroir is an important thing. It's not a myth. It's the interaction of microclimate, soil, and topography on how a plant grows. And on exposed windy sites like this, the sea coming in, the trade winds will burn the leaves that will affect the evapotranspiration, which in turn will affect how those flavor compounds are created in the growing plant. And then behind us here, we extract those flavors. So the 150 little mini rums, each one stands as a Renegade rum in its own right, but assembled together in clever proportions that Devon is going to be working on shortly, we can create a fascinating matrix of flavors, of Grenadian flavors, layering them one after the other to create the most profound rum the world's ever seen. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. The first step is the pre-cask, a glimpse of what we're doing. That's what we've released so far. White rum, if you want. That's the generic term. We're calling it pre-cask. It's before it's gone into barrel. The next step this summer, we'll release the same spirit a year after it's been in wood, when this maritime air has had a chance to influence those flavor compounds that we've extracted in here. And the difference is startling. The third step is to start getting creative by bringing some of these components together. And then the fourth step, which will be in the spring of 2024, is to make the definitive Renegade rum, which will be a compote, an assemblage of all these different components, wood types, distillation techniques, terroirs, and varietal influences. So today, we should have done this a year ago, but obviously for reasons we all know we couldn't. We now sort of pivot 180 degrees. Everything up to now has been about getting this distillery going. Despite all the trials and tribulations, all the hassle of bringing together this equipment from all over the world, which at the time sounded like a really good idea. Post-COVID, it wasn't so clever. A mill from Brazil, a boiler from South Africa, fermenters from Ireland, stills from Scotland, organic Rankine machinery from Germany, software from America, and it all converged here in this plant. But now we move 180 degrees the other way. Now we start looking out overseas, internationally. Now is the time that all this groundwork, all this preparation starts to focus on our consumer, the distribution around the world. Now, it's not a rum that's going to be everywhere. It's not going to be in every corner shop. It's a rum for the cognoscenti. It's for the gastronome. It's for the bon viveur. It's a very elite distillation process. And as the brand emerges, and as the fame of Renegade spreads, so will the reflected glory here in Grenada. It doesn't happen overnight. Brands don't happen overnight. It takes time. There's steps you have to follow, incremental steps. And it is very heartwarming to know of the interest out there in the world about what we're doing, both from the rum fanatics and fans, but also the rum industry. Because I think the rum industry recognizes that a catalyst is needed. Rum is always, they say, going to be the next big thing, but somehow it never quite is. And that's why we wanted to change the way people think of rum, change the way they think of it by changing the way it's made. This journey has been a nightmare. John was very nice about it, but I mean, Christ, it's been a nightmare. Blood, as a great, great man, another great man said, I can give you nothing but blood, sweat, toil, and tears. And boy, have we had lots of those. It's been a real struggle as we battled to bring everything together, the challenges that we faced, one problem after another, the frustrations have been endless. And I know Graham is going to thank people at the end, but there's two groups that I would like to draw attention to, and that is obviously our shareholders, some of whom are here today, who have had the courage to support this, the risk takers who to support this venture, to make it happen. And of course the people of Grenada, whether it's the farmers, whether it's the politicians, whether it's our farm colleagues, our distillery colleagues. We started this distillery, we now have 99% of our staff are Grenadian. It is run by people who've never seen boilers like this. They've never seen the equipment that we brought to this project, but they've picked it up and they've learned. And with our all-female, the world's first all-female distilling team, I'd add, this is for Grenadians, by Grenadians, and it's of Grenada. So I'm very pleased that. And the two people that represent those two, the Grenadians, Graham Williams, and if it hadn't been for Graham, I'd have long gone. The frustrations. So Graham, every time I was ready to jack it all in, Graham was the guy that pulled me back and said, no, it's something, and he would pull a rabbit out of the bag and off we would go. And of course Sir John, for his amazing belief and faith in this what must have seemed at times a harebrained scheme. So his support, his personal support, and belief and faith in me and this project has been what has sustained us through those very, very difficult times. And it's not over. It's not over. There are going to be other challenges. There's going to be other difficulties. They're just going to be different ones. But they're bound to happen. So in conclusion, that question that I started with, can we make a rum as profound as a single malt? Well, hopefully, in a few minutes, you'll have a good idea of whether we've succeeded. I certainly think that we're there, we're getting there, we're on the way. And this time last week in Paris, our peers, the trade, the spirits trade, they seem to think so, because they awarded Renegade's bottling of Dunfermline, which is just over there, the finest whiskey of the year. So I think we're doing something right. So I hope you'll try some spirit later on. We've got some here in the warehouse. This is our pantry over here. This is our sort of larder of flavour. So we're going to go in there later on, and Devon will let you taste some out of barrel so that you can see what we're doing. But thank you all very much for coming. Thank you.
Mark, thank you very much for telling us about the challenges and travails of this project. And as has already been highlighted by Lady McTaggart and Mark, this was hugely challenging, and it wouldn't have been possible for the local support, especially the Grenadian contribution to this project, to come off the ground the way it has. And it's now my distinct pleasure to invite Minister Peter David to the podium to give the speech on behalf of Prime Minister Keith Mitchell.
Good morning, everybody. Mark, I could have listened to you all day, actually. It was a fascinating tour, I know. I'm not really a rum drinker, but after what you said, I'll be tasting all the rums that I can get my hand on. Governor General, Her Excellency Dame Cecile Lagrenade, my cabinet colleagues and parliamentary representative for St. Andrew Northeast, Honorable Kate Lewis, representatives of the diplomatic community here in Grenada, British High Commissioner, and others present, welcome. CEO of Renegade Rum, Mark Reiner, shareholders and staff of Renegade Rum, representatives of carriacou, other invited guests, members of the media, everyone tuned in to this live broadcast, thank you to all, and good morning. I'm truly heartened to stand here today on behalf of the Prime Minister to develop remarks on this auspicious occasion. Auspicious because it represents the culmination of a dream that has already created tremendous opportunities for the people of Grenada and has the potential to continue bringing significant benefits to the country in the future. The Renegade Rum Distillery is a unique project that is considered an industry game changer. The Prime Minister readily admits that when he first heard about this project, he was not entirely convinced that it could be brought to fruition. The Prime Minister gives credit to Alexandria Otway, former Minister of Government, who embraced the vision of the project very early and was convinced about its potential benefit for the country. It was not within her remit at the time, but she did everything in her power to support and facilitate this initiative. Therefore, today the Prime Minister says thank you to Alex for steering us on the right path. I'm sure Alexandria is here someplace. There you are. Thank you on behalf of the Prime Minister and the government, and of course, the project. Further, having been part of the sod turning back in July 2018, and having witnessed the progress of work through periodic site visits, and having tasted the actual project, the Prime Minister is delighted that the company has arrived at this noteworthy juncture, and he extends hearty congratulations to Mark Reiner and team for transforming this vision into reality. The pandemic created immense challenges, but Mark and his team must be given credit, not only for choosing Grenada, but for their fierce determination to see this initiative through. As an investor, Mark will obviously be concerned about recouping the value of his investment and generating a profit. But for Grenada as a country, the value of this project is far beyond just dollars and cents. The Renegade Rum Distillery is an all-round good news project. Good news from the perspective of the agricultural sector, as it incorporates a resurgence of the local sugarcane industry, providing gainful employment for many. About 100 farmers are currently involved in the cultivation of more than 230 acres of sugarcane at 12 locations in the southern and eastern part of the island. In addition, the project provides full-time employment at various levels for another 35 Grenadians at the distillery itself. The head distiller and overall production manager is Grenadian, and the company, as you heard before, boasts of having the world's only all-female distilling team. Renegade Rum Distillery is good news because the product is 100% Grenadian. The cane is grown in Grenada, and the rum is distilled in Grenada, matured and bottled also by Grenadians. The project is good news for the landowners whose lands were for the most part sitting idle. Now they have an opportunity to earn an income by virtue of simply owning the lands that have been leased to facilitate cultivation of the tons of sugarcane needed for this project. Good news for the correlation between tourism and agriculture, as the premium rum produced at this distillery will help to give greater visibility to Grenada on the international market, and certainly will entice more visitors to come and explore our beautiful island. The distillery is good news for the rural economy because its location here creates significant economic benefit, both direct and spin-off for people in the immediate vicinity and even beyond. I'm sure Honorable Kate Lewis could readily pinpoint a story or two that exemplifies the type of transformation that is taking place in this area. The Renegade Rum Distillery is also good news because it is an environmentally friendly project, one that produces 100% natural waste and reuses the bagasse to generate electricity. In a world that is increasingly conscientious about environmental preservation and improving resilience, the design of this project is indeed one for the record books. Standing here today extolling the virtues of this project gives me a sense of hope for the future. There is so much potential in our country. We must embrace it, harness it, and work collaboratively to achieve it. One of the key takeaways from this project is conviction. Having that belief in yourself, in your business idea, and daring to be bold, to be a game changer, because that is exactly what this project is. And we all saw the passion in Mark as he spoke earlier. This is truly a game changer born of conviction. While the ultimate goal was to create an innovative, revolutionary, cutting-edge product to impress the international premium rum market, this project has also been a game changer for the local sugarcane industry and for the community here in Conference. The story of Renegade Rum Distillery, although it was initiated by Mark Reiner, will essentially be a Grenadian story, one that can be shared with the entire world. This is indeed a proud moment for Grenada. Thank you, Mark, and your team, and your shareholders, and all the persons involved in this project for delivering on this magnificent initiative. I thank you.
Thank you very much for those uplifting words. And now we are arriving at the moment that we've been anticipating and looking forward to, which is the ribbon cutting ceremony. So I'd like to invite Mark and Her Excellency to head over to the cask house, and the seats, or the guests remaining, they may remain comfortably seated in their chairs. So we can watch Mark and the governor open up the cask house of Renegade Rum Distillery. and I know we are all very excited to see what's going to come out of these casks in the next couple months and years ahead of us. Your Excellency Mark, thank you for doing us the honors. And now, last but not least, I would like to introduce our Managing Director, Graham Williams.
Excuse me. Her Excellency Dame Cecile Lagrenade, Governor General of Grenada, the Honorable Peter David, Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Miss Minister Kate Lewis, Member of Parliament for St. Andrews North East, Mrs. Wendy Freeman, British Commissioner to Grenada, Lady Helena MacTaggart, wife of Sir John MacTaggart, Chairman of Renegade Spirits Grenada Limited, Mr. Mark Renier, CEO of Renegade Rum Distillery, shareholders of Renegade Rum Distillery, special invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my pleasure to move the vote of thanks at this long-awaited opening ceremony of the Renegade Rum Distillery. I begin by expressing special thanks to our chairman, Sir John MacTaggart, who unfortunately is not here today. Regrettably, he had to return prematurely to the UK yesterday. However, he is fully supported today by his wife and extended family, who we recognize in our audience. Welcome to Grenada and enjoy our island's hospitality. This morning, we also received some words from our Prime Minister through the conduit of Honorable Peter David, Minister for Agriculture. For our Prime Minister is also unavoidably absent. However, we are flattered by his kind words of encouragement and support of our project. The Prime Minister has also always been a keen supporter of our endeavor, and his assistance has gone a long way in making our dream a reality. I want to express our gratitude to Her Excellency Dame Cecile Lagrenade for performing the honors of cutting the ribbon at our opening. Her Excellency has also been a fan of the distillery from inception, and herself an agro-producer fully understands the importance to Grenada of businesses like ours that contribute to Grenada's agriculture, manufacturing, and foreign exchange through export sales. The list of supporters and persons who have assisted us on our journey to make Renegade Rum a reality is indeed a long one. And to mention everyone will go well beyond the time allotted to me this morning. However, it would be remiss of me not to make special mention to those whose assistance cannot go unnoticed. And I've carefully written them down. Miss Menina Jessame, now PS in the Prime Minister's office, who was Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture in 2016, went beyond and above her duties in assisting us to benefit from concessions and the assistance of the Ministry of Agriculture. She was very instrumental in allowing us to use the government's greenhouse at Moran St. John's, where the first tissue culture sugarcane plants were hardened and matured to be ready to be planted at our nursery in Lac Olum. Additionally, she assisted carriacou with access to concessions on farm equipment in the early days before our investment agreement with the Government of Grenada was formalized. As you have heard before, Ms. Alexandra Otway Noel, who was then the Member of Parliament and Minister of Implementation. She championed our cause from the get-go and assisted us to navigate our way through the various government departments to give our project a fair hearing. Mr. Daniel Lewis, the then Chief Agricultural Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture, who assisted in organizing various meetings with stakeholders, such as the Grenada Cane Farmers Association and large landowners on the island. He was also greatly assisted by other senior members of the Ministry of Agriculture. To the Chairman and Executive Officers of the Grenada Industrial Development Corporation, Mrs. Leslie Ann Sion, Mr. Ronald Theodore, Executive Director, and his team, we thank you for assisting us with negotiating the investment agreement between ourselves and the Government of Grenada. Your assistance was an invaluable help to reach our mutually beneficial agreement. To the architectural and construction team of TVA Consultants and TVA Project Management, Mr. Nigel Rennick and Mr. Keith Letton, respectively, your technical assistance and guidance were invaluable throughout this endeavor. To Dr. Anselm Latouche and his executives of creative design and building contractors, who were the lead contractors in building this facility, we thank you for your commitment to the project and to seeing the process through to the end. The evidence of our surroundings is testament to all your expertise. To all the numerous subcontractors, we thank you for your assistance and professional input, for which we will be eternally grateful. To our overseas consultants, led by FDT Consulting and Engineering Project Managers of Ireland, while you're not present here today, it would be remiss of me not to mention the sterling contribution you've made to take the vision of our CEO, Mark Renier, and turn it into the reality of the Renegade Rum Group. A truly international facility with sugarcane mills from Brazil, supplied by Interunion, a biomass boiler from South Africa, supplied by John Thompson, fermentation vessels and other support equipment manufactured by BCD of Ireland, and last but not least, the pot and column still from Forsyths of Scotland. Before our distillery site was chosen or constructed in 2020, the agricultural component commenced in 2016 with the establishment of carriacou Limited, the subsidiary that is set about growing the sugarcane that is a vital component to our distillery. The services of Booker Tate consultants were the first boots on the ground, conducting the feasibility study to determine if sugarcane could be resuscitated in Grenada. After several attempts to find a suitable model for the development, it was realized that carriacou had to establish and manage its own farms, as this was the only way to revitalize the sugarcane crop in as short a time as possible. Aside from the plants which were imported from Barbados, the next most important requirement to make it a reality was the land. To this end, we must recognize the following landowners who have shared in our vision and entered into a partnership with carriacou by renting their lands for sugarcane cultivation. They are the Henry family, who own Hope Estate in St. Andrews, from which we rent 35 acres of land; Campbell Estates Limited of Bailey's Bacalet, who rents 65 acres to carriacou; Mrs. Rosalind Nyack of Dunfermline Estate, who rent us 30 acres; the National Insurance Scheme, who rent to carriacou 63 acres at River Antoine and 46 acres at Point Estate, St. Patrick's; Dr. and Mrs. Anselm Latouche, who rent 68 acres to carriacou of lands in boundary with our distillery, the lands you see around us; to the Bain family of Pearls, who rent 30 acres of land at Pearls, St. Andrews, and that's the field immediately behind you; to Westall Estate Limited, who rent 34 acres for our nursery and our Westall farm; to Mr. Lennox de Gale of St. Andrews, who rents 12 acres of land to Conference St. Andrews; and more recently to Mr. Clayton Thomas, who rents 18 acres of land at Conference St. Andrews. carriacou is actively involved with negotiations and other landowners as we seek additional lands to increase our production for future bottling. The continued support of local landlords is vital to the growth of this company, as we endeavor to produce a significant premium rum for all of Grenada, that all of Grenada can be proud of. I would like to recognize the following persons who have also contributed in one way or another to the success of Renegade Rum. Mr. Bertram Moses John, more widely known as BJ; Mr. Andre Donald of Rail FM; Mrs. Margaret Wilkinson of Wilkinson, Wilkinson and Wilkinson; Mrs. Valma Jessamy; the staff of the Ministry of Finance Concession Desk; the management and staff of Westerhall Estate; the management and staff of carriacou Limited; the management and staff of Renegade Rum Distillery; and members of the media. In closing, I would like to thank you all for making this effort of being with us here today. To the overseas shareholders of the company, thank you for your support and for the effort you've made to come and visit us. Our local guests, we are indeed happy to have you here today, and thank you for your continued support and interest in our project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Graham, for the vote of thanks, and we mark the end of the official part of the ceremony at this point. So I would like to invite all guests who are remaining with us to help themselves to some refreshments in the cask house. For those who would like to go on a tour, we will have Karen inside the cask house as well. For those who are interested, just can take a little look around. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to invite all landowners to come inside the cask house and pick up a token of appreciation. So with this being said, this is the end of the opening ceremony. I also like to thank all the viewers who've been following us online. And I hope that for those who can't stay with us and have further engagements, that you get to your next appointment safely and productively. See you.